Oh, I don't know if you were wanting to record. Okay.
Okay. Recording just started.
Okay. So last time we went over the story and the characters and just super quick. The cheese represents everything we desire in life. There were 4 characters. You have the mice, which were simple-minded, but they stayed prepared. They kept their running shoes tied around their necks. You had Sniff, who was always on the lookout for opportunity. And you had Scurry, and he is basically a doer. He's a shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy. And the combination of them working together was successful and always looking and always finding cheese. The little people were the other 2 characters, him and Haw. Him was fearful, angry. He was, playing the victim. He wanted retribution. He wanted, justification for why his cheese was moved. And he was basically living, both of them, in kind of a fear-based mentality. Haw eventually saw the light. As he got hungry, he became pragmatic and went out looking for cheese. So Haw suggested maybe we should simply stop analyzing the situation so much and go find some new cheese. But him said, I'm going to get to the bottom of this, like he's still investigating and dwelling in his misery of not having any cheese. So we're going to talk today about Haw and his evolution of how he came about to wanting to find cheese and how this pertains to our own world. Let's see, I got everybody's on. I'm going to try and do a screen share. God help me. I got the leaf blowers going for neighbors on both sides are leaf blowing today. So I got to remember that. Let's see. So we'll hit the slideshow from the beginning. Here we go. Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yes.
So just a cold slap in the face. If you do not change, you become extinct. So we really don't have a choice in the matter. Does everybody remember a Blockbuster video? I still have my Blockbuster card. I think I can sell it like on eBay for $5 or something. But, they had a chance to buy Netflix for $50 million, which in today's world is peanuts. And they couldn't see they didn't have the vision to see that things were changing and that people weren't going to come and to their store and rent DVDs or cassette tapes or whatever. So they were very short-minded and they became extinct. I mean, a huge, huge company. I mean, there's a Blockbuster on every friggin' corner, remember? Also, BlackBerry phones. Did anybody raise your hand if you had a BlackBerry? I had a BlackBerry. So they would not come to the realization that people wanted a bigger screen and they didn't care about the buttons. So they went out of business. Okay, so these two kind of go together. Noticing small changes early helps you take advantage of bigger changes that are to come. Smell the cheese. I can't read. Smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old. So this kind of plays into being like Sniff. You have to have your radar up. So who was surprised when interest rates went up? Jamie, did you think when we were at 3% that we would ever go higher?
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely thought we would go higher. Did I think we'd get to the 7s? No. But did I think we'd get higher? Absolutely.
Right. So we didn't really know that they were going to go so high so fast. But we knew when we started seeing inflation data come out and so forth that it was going to push rates higher. So smart loan officers tried to shift their business from refis to purchases early on. Also, Laura, are you using texting now to communicate with your customers?
Yes, I do.
So did you do that 5 years ago?
Well, I'm new to this. I've only been in LO for about 2.5 years. So
Okay.
no.
Well, I'll tell you that most people didn't like to do business texting. They just weren't. I don't know if they weren't ready for it or they thought it was too intrusive or what. But
Yeah.
now all my customers text me. So, you know, smart loan officers, they see how the trends develop. They have their antenna up. And I mean, you have to do that throughout life, right?
Right.
Okay. So here's the big question. What would you do if you weren't afraid? There's a lot of fear in our industry, fear in calling real estate agents, getting rejected. Frederick, do you ever feel like, gosh, if I call this big real estate agent and then they're going to just like blow me off and that's just going to make me feel bad?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So we all suffer from that, you know, so you have to think about what would you do if you weren't afraid? And then, you know, it kind of starts to make sense. Of course, you still have to deal with your fear and your feelings, but at least it gives you a legitimate game plan on what you should be doing. You know, it's not just in sales. I mean, you know, you can be fearful to ask for a raise. You could be fearful to you know, be more outspoken in these meetings. Well, let me ask you something, Misty. Do you think that if you didn't have any fear that you would give more yeses or more nos?
Probably for me, more no's.
I can't hear you.
I said probably for me, more no's.
More no's, right?
Yeah.
So you're giving people, you don't know how to tell people no.
Yeah.
Tamara, what about you? Do you feel like if you didn't have any fears that you would be giving more yeses or more nos?
Sorry, I got to get my head wrapped around. I was just on the call with a borrower.
It's a real ambiguous question. I know.
Yeah. So repeat it to me again.
So if you lived without fear, do you think that you would give more yeses or more nos?
Oh, more no's for sure.
More nos. Okay.
Yeah. I think only because we have that pressure from society or even loved ones to please, and it's harder to say no when you're in that situation. So if nothing was holding me back, I would probably say no a whole lot more.
Right. So a smarter person than me once said, you know, when you're young, you should give a lot more yeses. And it takes a lot of yeses to build success, but then it takes a lot of no's to stay successful. Because it seems like once you get a little bit more success or a little bit older and so forth, that more people are pulling from you, right? And when you're young, you give a lot of yeses because you need to taste a lot of different things that life has to offer. You think there's any truth to that? Maybe. Okay. Okay, so these two I bunched together. It is safer to search in the maze than remain in a cheeseless station, and movement in a new direction helps you find new cheese. So Frederick, what am I saying there?
Safer searching the maze. So I think the areas that you're comfortable in, like just doing what you know, doing what you're comfortable in, not stepping outside your comfort zone, or, you know, I guess in this analogy, staying in the cheeseless situation, kind of in the immediate sense feels safer because you don't have to, you know, venture out into the unknown and try something different. But if you do venture out, then you could potentially, you know, come across something even better that can help sustain you or grow you.
Right. So there's a risk in not taking any risks, right? So like you could have, let's say that you saved up some money. Well, you could just have it in a shoebox under your bed and there's no risk. But whatever, that $10,000 that you saved 30 years from now is still $10,000 on paper, but due to inflation, it's probably worth 5. And over that length of time, investing it even in something, either the stock market or even in something like an interest-bearing checking account or something would at least help the money grow. So there's a risk in not taking any risks. So what we perceive as being the safest thing to do really oftentimes isn't the safest thing. We're forced into making decisions and taking on some risk. And of course, you're not going to really accomplish anything or, enjoy the fruits of life if you don't take any risk at all. There's this expression that everything worthwhile in life, all the good stuff, is just on the other side of fear. And I think there's some truth to that. Okay, so the quicker that you let go of the old cheese, the sooner you find the new cheese. And I think that this is about breaking bad habits. I have a lot of old bad habits that I need to break. Jessica, I haven't talked to you at all.
Yes.
Give me an old bad habit that somebody may need to break.
Anyone or me?
You, if you want to share.
Okay, avoiding phone calls.
Avoiding phone calls just in life or while you're at work?
Both.
Okay, so Jessica does not like being on the phone because it distracts you, throws you off track.
Yes, that, and just not a phone talker.
Okay. I get it. Yeah, and one of mine is I'm a night owl, so my mind starts to race late at night, and when the house is real quiet and all, I can get a lot done. And so that's a bad habit, is I stay up too late working on projects, and then I have trouble sleeping because my mind is like still racing. So anyway, we all have something, but that's a tough lesson to learn. But you can't develop a bunch of new habits until you learn your old ones. So look at this, we're whizzing right through. So in summation, change is going to happen. You've got to keep moving. Somebody's going to move your cheese no matter what happens. You have to try and anticipate the change by having your antenna up, like Sniff, who's always checking out the cheese, making sure that it's fresh and so forth. Smell the cheese often. You'll know when it's getting old. You'll get a feel for when the market's changing, or, I don't even, maybe in 25 years, we won't even get mortgages from mortgage companies. There may just be like a kiosk at the mall. We may not even have malls. You may just hit a few buttons online and then they give you the money and they can verify everything. We can almost verify everything now. So who knows? But, I'm always got my antenna up to see what other mortgage companies are doing and what other business people are doing. Just so part of it is I've got a little bit of FOMO. I don't want to miss out on something, but I also just want to keep track so that I'm not left in the dust. So you have to adapt to change quickly. They say that when I talk to or hear from super high producers, one of the things that they all have in common, and believe me, there's very few things that all top producers have in common. They come in all shapes and sizes in all different marketplaces. So it's really hard to come up with, there's a couple of things. Number one is they're all curious. And that's a quality of all successful people. But the other thing is they're quick to change. So they hear about a new program or something, and then they're quick to implement it. They don't just think about it until it just kind of dissipates. You have to enjoy the change. With change comes, opportunities. A lot of times we look at things like, we have this new whiz bang total expert CRM that right now is giving some of us some issues. but we know it is more advanced and it's going to work out and be terrific in the future. So be ready to quickly change again and again, because they're going to keep moving your cheese. And I just want to say one thing in summation about Hall. So Hall realized that what you're afraid of is never as bad as what you imagine. The fear you let build up in your mind is worse than the situation that actually exists. Perhaps most importantly, he realized there's always new cheese out there, whether you recognize it at that time or not, and that you're rewarded with it when you go past your fear and enjoy the adventure. Having found a new cache of cheese, Hall reflects that the barrier to the discovery was inside him, not outside him. His fear and unworkable beliefs prevented him from making the simple effort to find a new stash. Old cheese will run out, go stale, or disappear, but new cheese awaits and rewards a committed search. That's all I have. I hope you enjoyed the book. Did anybody want to make any comments or anything?
I have a question, Stephen. That at like towards the end of the story, when it mentioned that there was I guess like I think it was like some type of noise or something that Hall heard, and it kind of left it open to interpretation, like what you think it is. Like, what do you think it was?
Well, we all hope. Who is that talking?
It's me, it's Laura.
Laura,
Yep.
Thanks for the comment. So we're all hoping that it's him who finally came around, as stubborn
Yeah.
as he was, so that he won't, because if he didn't, he's going to perish. I mean, he's
Right.
going to starve to death.
Yeah.
So the author left it open, but we certainly hope that it's him coming around the corner who saw the handwriting on the wall, because Hall
Yeah.
put those messages up on the wall for him. Hall is a really good friend when you think about it.
Yeah, he was. He was.
And so that's it. So we hope, it leaves you with that promise of hoping that him was coming around the corner, but we don't know.
Right.
Right.
Right. Interesting.
I think we can learn from something from him as well, in that he went back the first time, right? Like he went back to be like, hey, like, come on, come do this with me. And he was like, nope, I'm good and stay here forever. And so at the end of the story, he thinks again to himself, like, oh, I should go back and like bring him all the way with me. But then he remembers, you know what? Actually, he didn't want to do it the first time. He's likely not going to come with me this next time. And in the book, there's just this one quote that says, no one else could do it for him or talk him into it. Somehow he had to see the advantage of change for himself. And so I think sometimes we've got to remember that for ourselves also, that, it's awesome to share, and we definitely want to bring others along with us, but don't let that stop you from becoming who you want to be by always worrying about the person that you left behind. I think it's important to be a sharer and a giver and everything, but at the same time, I think it's also important to be like, you know what, where are you at? And be realistic on who you're dealing with as well. Like, are they going to change? Are you wasting your time, or is that time well spent? And I fall into the bracket of like, everybody's always worth the time. Like, you never give up on them. But at times I discovered like, okay, well, if it would have put him back, then you've got to sometimes be a little bit selfish and be like, you know what, I gave the opportunity. And anyway, that's kind of where you have to leave it.
Yeah, like don't let other people like hold you back. Like when you're trying to move forward, don't let like, stubborn, afraid to change types keep you from moving forward.
From changing. For sure.
I think you're 100% right. I think that there's 2 points to be made there. One of them is that we're in life, we think that we're blindsided by things, and maybe sometimes that happens, but most of the time, like if your friends tell you that that their spouse is going to leave them, or that you're thinking in your mind, oh my God, I can't believe it took this long, right? So, but they're like totally blindsided because they didn't have their antenna up. They didn't have their sneakers tied around their neck. Or the same thing in business. They find out that their business partner was stealing from them. And then it was going on for years. And they, there were always signs along the way. Life rarely blindsides us. We're just blind. We blind ourselves because we're so comfortable in the situation. We don't want to entertain the possibility that something bad, or I mentioned 2 bad examples, but it could be some kind of good example where there's opportunity where we kind of have blinders on and don't see it. So yeah, you're absolutely
forget
right
to
about
be the
that. And the
Sniff.
other thing is, one thing that Gary Vee always says is he's like, I don't try and sell anybody. I tell people my ideas and so forth. And if they want to jump on board, that's fine. But if they're not interested, I have no interest in selling somebody on it, because then they're not going to be fully engaged. So yeah, so you're 100%, Laura. You try and help out your friends, but at the end, you present to them what your observations are. Maybe you have a different angle on the situation, but if they don't want to accept your advice or see your perspective, that's the end of it. You kind of did your part. You can't, sell them on it.
Right.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything else that they learned or want to pull out of it? Well, listen, I really enjoyed this, even though I had technical problems both times. I really enjoyed it. You guys, thank you for participating. And, maybe we'll do another book one day. So have a terrific day, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Stephen. Have a good one. Bye.